Now sing something from Sword in the Stone.
Hickety-pickety,
Books are first, you know. This is the way that things go when
No one
you're
said
a
that that
fish.
was a song. That was when you're a fish. Because when you're a fish, you're a fish.
When you're a fish all the way.
Now Fosse. Oh boy.
Okay.
Where was I?
Should we start?
I think we should just open it with that.
I know, that's the way to go right there.
Welcome to Idle Prattle, the unofficial Disney podcast where we will blabber about every movie in order.
We'll share our thoughts on animation, music, cultural relevance, and more.
So take a gulp and take a breath as we dive deep into the world of Disney.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Idle Prattle, or as I like to say it, hello, and welcome to Idle Prattle.
What is that?
What?
That's my attempt
What?
at a British accent.
What?
Who? What?
Guys, I'm like
Whoa.
so obsessed with whenever our comedians just like,
Who?
what?
What?
Who?
It's
What?
the best. It's the best repetitive saying versus the worst, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't know which one I like more. Oh, balderdash. Or,
Oh, dash it all.
what? Yeah.
I was specifically talking about when Arthur 7 times in this movie goes, whoa. Did you guys not notice that? They use the same audio clip for him.
Really?
Did you not notice that?
No, but maybe we can put in a clip.
We have to put in a clip of it because I promise you people that are like me that watch this remember it from childhood because every time he does it, he like...
Let's put in a clip.
Whoa, what? Oh! Who are you? Whoa, what? Oh! Whoa, what? Oh!
Mudmouth.
My mud mouth. It's a real thing.
So, guys, if you hear more saliva than usual, Eli has mudmouth.
It's my
so
mudmouth.
excuse him.
Listen,
We're going to take an Instagram poll. Have you heard of mudmouth? Because
let me define
2/3 of us
Okay.
have never heard of this.
It's when your mouth is dry from working in like a factory or like with wood, so like dust gets in there and like dirt gets in your mouth.
When have you
Yeah,
worked
what is your excuse then?
I worked in the back room tonight putting up newspapers, and it's
So, all I can say is that after you brush your teeth, people say that they have like cotton mouth. And that's when you're like, it's really dry. The inside of your mouth is really dry.
okay.
It sounds like
No.
the same thing.
You
Yeah.
gotta like go shopping in a dusty place, or like go to a warehouse, and then
Find a dusty
and
place
then,
to go
and
shopping.
then drink like a soda or tea or something, and then your mouth gets like it's like when dirt and water mix. It's like mud. So your mouth was dry, but there was dust particles, and now you have liquid, and it makes it goop. It's like your saliva is thicker than usual.
We
It's
just
mud
lost like 10 followers on
It's a
Instagram.
thing. Someone knows what I'm talking about.
So today we're here to talk about Mudmouth, apparently, and The Sword in the Stone.
1963.
Heck yeah. So I'm pretty sure, just to be upfront, I think there are different degrees of interest in this film amongst the three prattlers
I told you
today.
there's 2 degrees, and I'm over here alone with my mud mouth.
Well, I'll be frank. It's a Monday night, and it's been a long day. And so I'm going to try to be as positive as possible.
Oh, I'm positive.
Oh, he's saying 2 different parts of the same song.
So let's jump in with a plot summary to get started. This Disney adaptation of the classic fable chronicles King Arthur's humble beginnings. As an orphan child, Arthur, who was then known as Wart, wants to help his foster brother Kay succeed in becoming a knight. While helping Kay train, Wart stumbles upon a cabin belonging to Merlin, a bumbling but talented wizard. Merlin does his best to convince the boy that he is bound for greatness, and when Wart and Kay travel to London to attend a jousting contest, they learn that Merlin was right.
Every sword begins with Wart.
Oh my god.
Oh, I was trying to think if there was a K version. Every joust
'cause his name
begins
is-
with K.
Yeah, I like it.
So, what were everybody's gut reactions? Let's start with Eli.
Put me on the spot because you know it's a fan favorite of my fan.
Fandom of one.
The fandom of one. Okay, my gut reaction is that I still really have a soft spot for this movie. But I finally tried to put on my nostalgia glasses to a lower setting. I'm not taking them off ever, but I lowered them to like a 3, and I completely see why this is like a middle of the road movie or even a lower one to some people. I still love it. I'm going to try my best to be impartial and objective because it isn't the best.
I agree. I don't think it's the best. I just, oh man. I don't have memories of this. First of all, I think that's important to put in my gut reaction. My first time watching this was a few years ago. I was like 25-ish. So I don't have a nostalgia factor for it. And watching it again, I was reminded of why it's not so great. I like 101 Dalmatians and Jungle Book. I have fond memories of those two, and this one happening in the middle just doesn't make much sense to me. I think it has some good aspects that I'll try to highlight in this episode, but overall, it's definitely not going to be anywhere near my top.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I did not love it. I texted Eli earlier today, and I said, I am struggling to finish this movie because I was not invested. I found it very hard to get into this film, and I was trying really hard, and I was doing research after and before and during, and it just, none of it was really coming together for me. So yeah, kind of a middle of the road to low for me. So,
but we also, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I think a lot of our listeners, this might be the first time that they're maybe experiencing sort of, and this, okay, sorry. I'm just going to say this. I always say sword and the stone, and I know that's wrong. It's sword in the stone. So if you hear me saying it wrong, it's a problem.
It's sword in the stone.
Just say
Sex
it.
And the city.
Here, say sword.
But her article is Sex in the City.
Is it really?
It really is.
But the show is called Sex and the City.
This is about Disney.
Right?
So.
Wait, just say sword in the stone once, and I'll just edit it
Thank
every
you.
time.
Thank you so
to say
much.
it really, really blunt.
Yeah, so that
Sword in the stone. Can you just insert that one?
we're going to insert that every time that you say it wrong.
Perfect.
Every time you say it wrong, I'm just
Or
gonna
every
put
time
that
you
clip.
say it.
Okay, I was saying something, though, about the listeners. Oh, okay. So I think that it'll be the listeners' first time maybe experiencing this movie. We have a lot of people, hey you, I'm talking to you out there.
You know who you are.
You know who you are, who like watch movies with us. They experience some of these movies for the first time. So we definitely should kind of give an objective and subjective view.
That's the plan.
When you said subjective, I felt a wave of responsibility.
Well, you have the job of singing this movie's praises, because Lord knows we're not going to.
All right, so just a little bit about the history of this film. It's initially based off of a lot of things. It's most famously based on a book by T.H. White called The Sword and the Stone, which, of course, is based on the legend of King Arthur. And so the book came out, I believe, in 1938, and Walt actually bought the rights to that film immediately. He got the rights in 1939.
Wow.
I know. And this film had been in production for over 20 years. I'm pretty sure this is the longest any film has been in production at Disney. I mean, it wasn't consistent throughout 20 years, but, it kept starting and stopping and starting and stopping.
I think we're realizing that this is the norm for animated movies. Yeah. They get put on the shelf. Sometimes they get taken off, and they kind of get worked on periodically until it's the right moment for it to strike.
Exactly. And I guess this was the right moment. I think Roy Disney might have argued that it wasn't the right moment, but for Walt, it was the right moment. Real quick, I know if any of you are returning listeners, you probably know that the Disney company kind of had ups and downs financially over this time. So, 101 Dalmatians was a huge success, whereas Sleeping Beauty was somehow a huge financial failure. At this time, Roy Disney was really trying to convince Walt to close down the animation department because, as we mentioned last week, there were tons of other ventures that Walt had and was kind of focusing on. There were the theme parks, there were live action films, and so on. Walt and Roy ended up coming to a compromise where they wouldn't shut down the animation department, but they would continue to release films, but they had to be more spread out. They could only release an animated film every 3 to 4 years. So for our listeners, you will start to notice there's going to be larger gaps between films. So it was 2 years since the last movie, and then the next movie isn't for another 4 years.
Woo, I didn't know that.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So it'll be 4 more years before the Jungle Book. So
How do you guys feel about that?
I think I will better be able to answer that question once I rewatch the Jungle Book. I haven't loved the quality of the last 2 films personally, and I'm wondering if more time between the films will improve the quality at all, or if it will remain the same. If it remains the same, then I'm kind of like, probably could have chugged out a few more.
Yeah, I don't know if the like momentum that they had in the early, let's say like 30s or the 50s was good momentum that kept them on their toes, and really the flops weren't as hard hitting because it was very closely followed by a hit.
Exactly.
That's a really
Exactly.
interesting fact.
No, thank you. Another fact about this film and the history is that this is actually the last movie that was released before Walt Disney died. So he had his hand in movies still to come, but this was the last one that he was involved with the
So
release
if
of
you take
everything.
anything away, this movie is special in that regard, and you
It
can't
is.
take that away from it.
That is true.
I agree with that. I think that's a really important statement, Eli. Yeah.
As far as the actual response, though, the earnings were quite dismal after 101 Dalmatians, which earned over $10 million in the box office. This earned $4.75 million and was opened to very mixed reviews, most of which were kind of attacking the story elements and the animation.
Story-wise? Oh, yeah.
The lack
that
of
is
story.
We'll get into it when we talk specifically
Right.
story, but I totally agree with that's what this movie's downfall was.
I think that was my biggest issue with this rewatch, and on like looking at it in an honest point of view, that I was like, what is this? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's super fair. So the origin story is, as we said, The Sword in the Stone by T.H. White. It was approximately 30-ish years since the origin story to the making of this movie. As a lot of you may know, this is a well-known book. It's part of a tetralogy, a group of 4 literary works, and that was called The Once and Future King. It has a lot of similar elements. It seems to be a common trait in the movie and in the book that he turns into different animals to learn different morals. It seems to be. He turns into an ant, a badger, a goose, so he turns into even more animals than we saw in the movie. The fact that I found the most interesting about the book is that they run into Little John, Robin Wood, and Maid Marian,
What?
who we're going to see 2 films later in Robin Hood.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wait. What? Robin Wood?
Robin Wood like Buffy?
Did you say you said Robin Wood, right?
I did, because it very specifically said in this book he was referred to as Robin Wood.
That's so interesting.
That is so weird, because when you said Robin Wood, I just thought you meant from Buffy, and you like said it wrong.
No, I did not. I did not mean that.
That makes sense though, because Robin Hood comes from this time era.
Yeah.
Everything's getting muddled in my mudmouth, mudbrain. It's all mixed up.
It's all mud.
That confused me. That Robin Hood is in that story.
Well, I think it's a good idea that they pulled Robin Hood out of this story so that
Right.
maybe this was the impetus to make Robin Hood its own movie. I wonder
Quite possibly.
if that's a connection. Suffice it to say, there was an episode where they fight a griffin, and by they I mean Kay and him. Kay seems to be a bigger part of
Right.
the book than in the movie, and they fight a griffin in which Wart breaks his collarbone.
Oh,
Yeah.
real stakes, people.
But story-wise, because we're about to get into critiques we have with the story, I don't feel like the source material was far better than the movie. It seems like the problem might stem from the source material itself. Maybe it just flowed better in the book, or maybe because there was more animal transformations, it made more sense. But
You know what's interesting is that I was reading, we've mentioned a few times that Walt has kind of been a little more hands-off with the last couple films, this film included. And I was reading that Walt decided to really go like full steam ahead with this after seeing a stage production of Camelot. And I'm wondering if like Walt saw Camelot and was like, oh, right, we have the Sword and the Stone. Let's just do that because Camelot's great, but two different stories. So I'm wondering if like Walt just somehow like conflated those two stories together.
Well, I mean, because the whole story is Arthur as a child up until he dies. And so I think that people are more drawn to a story when he's already king.
Yeah, for some reason, to me, stories work when they're biographical in a way where they go from childhood to adulthood. It's kind of like their life story is a story in itself. But with this one, it seemed like the story arc was completely missing. The transformations into the animals were inconsequential to the final climax, if there is even a climax of this movie.
There should have been. It almost feels like it's the first part of a story that we never got the rest of.
Right.
To me, there's two major threads in this film. There are Merlin's life lessons, and then there's Arthur ultimately becoming king. And I don't think they intersect particularly well at all.
Exactly. I also would ask that, well, the problem that I had was these animal transformations seemed to sometimes have a lesson and sometimes not. Like, it seemed like the lesson that came out of him becoming a fish was it was brains over brawn. But then when he became a squirrel, I had a question mark. And then at the end, there was this little moment where Merlin said, love is the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
But that wasn't like a really strong message from that episode. When he becomes a bird, I don't know. It
and that
kind of led
got
him to
sidetracked because he stayed a bird throughout the whole Madame Mim story.
It became something else.
And then we are kind of trained, but it's also a great story tactic to have the lessons that you learn contribute to like the ultimate goal, the ultimate quest, the climax of the story. And in this case, it had nothing to do with him pulling the sword out of the
You
stone.
don't see him
He was just destined to do it.
And that's the problem, because like what we should have seen is him as king use the things that he learned. But we don't get that part of the story.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is, as far as Madame Mim goes, I think she's a great antagonist, but I did a Chris.
I did too.
I did a Chris. And I paused it when Madame Mim came into the story.
I did too.
And how long did it take, Chris?
She didn't come in until an hour into the film.
And they had how many more minutes to go? Like 20?
It was 20 of the whole film, and she's only in, I think, 14 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like if she was a villain that was throughout the story causing obstacles, like even if she embodied that fish or that hawk or that wolf or something.
Oh, yeah.
So she was throughout the story, it would have given us a little bit more of a story element, and I liked her. I wish there was more of her.
I think she is a great antagonist.
I mean, she definitely doesn't get featured on like villains nights or
Right.
like on villains merch, so
Although, I don't know if we want to talk about this now. Should I talk about where Madame Mim comes in later in life, or should that be an extras?
Yeah.
More on Madame Mim later.
But suffice it to say, I just feel like the story is lacking. I also feel like the adaptation, the screenplay, I just think that was weak.
I agree.
Overall, I think that there were some comedic things that were supposed to be comedic that I just never have had the, the desire to laugh at.
It's pretty cartoon humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like the wolf at the beginning, I think he's supposed to be funny, but like I don't laugh at him. So
I don't think the wolf is funny either. I do think Archimedes and Merlin are funny. There's moments where it doesn't land for me. But, like, the one thing that held up for me is Merlin and Archimedes. Merlin, to me, is, like, proto-genie.
I wrote that
like,
down.
he's omniscient, omnipresent, whatever you want to call it.
Knows the future.
He can travel to it. He's different than
he's
the genie.
blue.
Right, he's blue. Merlin is part of why I like this movie.
I agree with you. So if we talk about the things that do work plot-wise, I think that the character of Wart is sympathetic. Whenever he gets really frustrated with someone and speaks his mind and the tears well up in his eyes, I think that's really beautiful. I think Archimedes is a great sidekick.
Archimedes is amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
He's definitely a crowning achievement of this film, and Merlin is fun.
Yeah.
He's very fun.
I think his characteristics are really fun.
It's really weird because I'm struggling to go off on a little bit of a tangent. We watched Raya and the Last Dragon newest trailer, and they finally show the Last Dragon titular character. And this trailer made me tiniest bit less excited because the dragon makes a joke about like when you're in class with someone and there's that one person who doesn't do a lot of the work but they get the same grade. And like I get it and I get why it's a funny joke, but to me that movie doesn't seem like you should be making a modernish joke like that, which kind of goes back to what Will said in Bambi. Like it makes it
not as timeless, more of a kids movie rather than
like
a
it's a
family
little
movie.
weird. But like in Moana, they make jokes like that and it doesn't bother me.
Oh,
but
this bothered me.
I hate when he goes, "It's reading."
Yeah, that's one of my
It's
least
easy
favorite.
for it.
It's called a tweet.
Oh.
When a bird sends a message or something. Oh, it's awful joke.
Well, that's how I feel about the dragon saying that in the trailer. But
Yeah.
Merlin in this movie, it doesn't bother me at all because it's like established.
It's part of his character.
It's part of his character, and
Yeah.
just like Genie, it
Genie
doesn't
does
bother
the
me.
same. Yeah.
It establishes that they have the ability to know all this or travel to different places, and maybe the dragon has that ability in Raya. I'm just interested to see where that goes. I just don't. I was trying to. I think that's the difference between that. Just in case someone thinks Merlin doesn't work for that reason.
Yeah, I think it's cute when he comes back and in his Bermuda shorts and
So Genie.
yeah.
I mean,
it's just-
that's
It is
like
very Genie.
verbatim what happens, except Genie comes back from like Disney World or something.
Yeah. Speaking of that ending, I wrote that it felt simultaneously that it went on too long and it was abrupt.
It was
I
it
don't
was,
even know how that
It was a
happened.
bad ending.
Because I think the perfect ending point could have been just when he pulls out the sword from the stone. And I think that would have been fine. But then it keeps going for about another 4 minutes. So that's where it's like, all right.
And then I was saying that, like, because when Merlin left, he was kind of upset with
Yeah.
Arthur. And I was like, maybe it's to resolve their relationship. But it seems to be resolved when he gets back. He's like,
Yes.
water under the bridge,
Yeah,
dude.
Merlin has to come back at some point, but he could have come back during the pulling of the sword.
They could have panned up to the building behind the sword and the stone, and he could have been sitting on the roof, and he's like, haha, I knew it all along, or something. And that made you look.
Literally just that. Just do the Genie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ending is rough.
But you know what's not rough is that beautiful moment where he pulls out the sword and the stone.
so
There's a reason
good.
why that's the freeze frame that's always pulled from this movie, because that is great animation. It's a beautiful moment. That moment of story is awesome. I kind of wish it just ended there. You know?
Me too.
I think we've said it. I mean, my main qualm, I think I don't hate this movie, but that's the part of this movie that I dislike the most is the story.
But you mentioned pulling the sword of the animation. My thought was that this animation, my note was, okay, it's scratchy again. In 101 Dalmatians, I was like, the aesthetic is like different and it's new from what we've seen and I like it and it works with it. And then here, I just felt like it was more lazy.
This animation to me felt extremely uneven because there were moments like the sword being pulled. There's a moment where they show the castle with the snow, and that's like a beautiful background kind of shot. Like there's some really beautiful shots in this. And then there's parts where I could literally see the pencil sketches of like the person's face, like the circle with the lines
Right.
through it,
And that's
for
the-
like a
yeah.
for like a frame.
And that's the Xerox thing again. Like
Yes.
we talked about
Yeah.
last time, that you will see the rough drawings of animators because they're using the Xerox process.
I think it's a style thing. Honestly, so Jordan pointed this out. I was like, what's up with this animation? And he said, well, it kind of looks like 101 Dalmatians and Jungle Book and Robin Hood. All four of those movies kind of are a group of an animation style. And I really like it in 3 of the 4 movies. So I think like it sometimes works with this movie. I don't know.
I preferred that animation style in 101 Dalmatians, which I know I was against at the like in the last episode. I was like, I don't like the animation style, but at least it seemed intentional. This didn't seem intentional. This seemed like some parts of it they were trying to do really detailed, and some parts of it they were like, Well, just use the Xerox.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't dislike it to a degree where I'm like, well, that's awful, but I would use the word lazy. There's reused animation in this movie, and animation from this movie gets reused a lot later. The backgrounds, to me, what you complained about, Abigail, but the backgrounds in 101 Dalmatians, I noticed tenfold in this movie, and it kind of bugged me.
I was looking for that too.
Yeah, but it's a style, and that's what I hate. Like, I don't know how to
Well, like, we could be critical in Snow White that the frame actually blurs out on the
Right.
edges. It doesn't even finish the picture, really.
Exactly.
I think it's just a style choice. It's intentional that the background is monotone, so your eye is drawn to the action that's happening.
Yeah, and in this one, it's like the ink lines don't match the painting behind it even more than 101 Dalmatians.
Which I think, I mean, I didn't research this, so I don't know if this is right, but I think it was watercolor.
It looked very watercolor.
Because it was very much like blurring into each other. Like the books in his cottage hut.
Yeah,
thing.
in the cottage is where I noticed it the most. Like,
Yeah.
I noticed, like, teapots in the background. It's an ink blot, or a watercolor blot of something. And then there's lines placed on it, but it's not... The line is, like, smaller than what the watercolor is. And so, I think it's intentional, and I do not hate it. It's just a little... It was a little distracting because watching these again through this analytical and critical eye, after watching all of these animation feats of their time, going to this and knowing the background and knowing that they're trying to save money, it just shows. I think it's telling that this movie received mixed reviews and it hasn't been one of those that has been overwhelmingly revered as a classic since. It's stayed where it was. Like, people don't really know this one. I know that I'm like the minority.
Yeah, I also think that people might have like, what's the word? They might like these 4 movies that we're talking about right now, but usually it's not in the majority. You don't find it to be common that people's favorite Disney movie is 101
Right.
or this or Jungle Book or Robin Hood.
Because I think a lot of people love those the way I love Sword in the Stone.
There's something about this animation style that's not what we ultimately associate with Disney animation, which is like very crisp and clean.
But I think there's even a little bit of it in Winnie the Pooh.
I don't know that I've ever seen that movie, so we will...
The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh?
We will talk about that in a couple weeks.
And then Aristocats is in there somewhere too. So, I mean, like this whole grouping, I think, has this animation style.
Well, a lot of these movies involve the same teams. Both this film and 101 Dalmatians have Ken Anderson in charge of all art direction. So he's kind of the man to thank or blame for this animation style, depending on how you look at it.
And Bill Pete was like a supervisor once again on this one.
Bill Pete wrote the story. Bill
Right.
Pete is the sole story writer.
Oh,
So
Ooh,
he's the
Bill
one
Pete.
to blame.
So,
Sorry, Bill.
honestly, this team is almost identical to 101 Dalmatians.
Uh-huh.
And maybe the person to blame maybe is the source material, because
Right.
in my opinion, I don't mind this animation very much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's unique and different. I think it's fine. I don't have any qualms with the animation. But to me, the story of 101 Dalmatians is
So good.
really solid.
Way
and
better.
This story is what irks me the most.
The story is almost directionless.
Right. And like last week, the animation, I didn't love it for 101 Dalmatians, but my overall score and review of it was that I really enjoyed it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the story. And this is the exact opposite. I think as much as I liked Dalmatians, I disliked this.
Can we talk about some animation moments that we really loved?
Yes.
There are a few things that I noticed that I thought were really like clever animation moments. I like when Merlin and Madame Mim are walking out to duel, and she has this little like scurry with her feet.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that?
Yes.
It's like the most adorable thing from such a like loathsome lady.
I love her.
But she's somehow like cute and terrifying at
Yes.
the same time.
I mean, anything with Madame Mim is my favorite part of animation in this movie.
Yep.
Her being the, quote, pretty lady is, like, creepy and mystifying to me
Yes.
all at once. Like, it's so weird. I just love anything with Madame Mim or magical sequence, to me, is really enjoyable.
In my opinion, the crowning achievement of this film is the character design. And
Yeah.
by that,
Yeah.
I think that extends beyond their traditional characters and goes into all of the transformations that happen, because I think those are brilliant. I think every single one is comical and smart and well thought out, and they found great ways to keep certain characteristics of Merlin, Arthur, and Mim in every single animal or creature that they become.
That was a profound statement, and I could not agree more. That was really good.
Especially with the color. Like, it's such an easy and obvious thing to do, but you always know who you're looking at because Wart is always like a golden color, and then Merlin is always blue, and then when it comes to Madame Mim, she turns into like pink and purple things.
And I think that they were just really creative in all the different ways that they were able to play around with the characters changing.
My qualm with that is that they said, this is going to be a wizard's duel, a battle of wits. And then they turn into a bunch of animals. And I'm like, and at the very end, he turns into a germ, which makes sense. But they had this, they could be anything, but they ended up being like a bunch of animals. So I wish it was like a transfiguration.
Well, and I definitely agree with that, but I think that is a story issue and not an animation issue.
I know,
think
yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
animators, if we're just talking animation, I think all of that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because the animators were just given the story.
Let me just fix this for you because I see what you're saying. But Archimedes says it's a battle of wits and they do something and they turn into things. He explains it, and then Madame Mim gets to make up the rules, and she says we're only going to turn into animals.
Why does he turn into a germ then? And he wins?
Because she cheats, and then he's just like, fine. But she says, no mineral, no plant, or something like that. I don't know.
No
the way she says
vegetable,
it.
no mineral.
No minerals, no vegetables.
And you can't disappear.
Just animal, but no disappearing and no made up stuff like a pink dragon. So she makes the rules, but then she immediately breaks the rules anyway. And so I think a germ is like a weird on the line thing that
It's
he
a
could have
living
done.
thing.
I was probably making pasta. When she said that.
But you are right. Archimedes explains it, but then Madame Mim makes the rules. So it's sort of like it's a battle of wits, but subcategory the wits was what animal can he turn into to overthrow your opponent.
When they said wizard's duel, I was like, Harry Potter,
A wizard's duel.
Protego.
Okay, so speaking of character design, those are great. But we also have really great vocal performances from various people. I'm just going to go over kind of the core cast real quick, and then I have some questions for you guys about them. So Ricky Sorensen is Arthur, and Carl Swenson is Merlin, and Junius Matthews is Archimedes. And I would say those are kind of like the core three.
Yeah.
And I say that Junius Matthews is probably one of my favorite vocal actors in Disney.
Yeah.
Can you name 2 other Disney films that he was in?
Nope, I can't.
He is Scotty in 101 Dalmatians.
Wait.
and
Let me think.
Scotty?
Danny! Is that it?
Oh, the little one.
What
and
is it,
then,
Danny?
and then for a very long time, he will be Rabbit for Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, I
knew
can
he was gonna
hear
be
it.
like
And
Sure.
not
He uses
just
like a much like lower part of his voice.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's not just in the film. Like
Is it
he's Rabbit
like
in
the
many different
2011
things.
one?
No, I think he's dead by then.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
But he's Rabbit like in the
Mr.
show
Matthews?
later and
Yes,
stuff like that?
yeah.
Okay.
Some other notable voice casts real quick. Madame Mim is Martha Wentworth. And do we know where we've heard her?
Nope.
Flora.
No.
Fauna.
No.
Fauna. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
You're getting it mixed up. No.
Flora. Fauna. Meriwether?
No. You're totally getting it mixed up. We talked about this on the couch earlier.
We did?
Yes.
What do you mean we're getting it mixed up?
She is Nanny in 101 Dalmatians.
Oh.
Oh. You know who Fauna is?
Yes.
She's
I
like
do.
the house.
I was like, yes, I do, because
Like,
it's right.
I'm looking at the information. Oh, man. Guys, don't go inside my mind. It's like a
It's full of
minefield.
scars.
Another voice actor is the scullery maid, played by Barbara Jo Allen. Do we know where we've heard her before?
do.
Maybe
Remember her
Nanny from 100. Fauna.
Yeah, that one's Fauna. Sad fact.
I thought you were saying a name.
No.
Sad fact.
Sad fact. This is actually her final film role
Why is that sad fact?
because she died.
Oh, well, you should have. Why did you say?
And then the last notable one is
Sad fact. Who plays?
is the great voice actor Sad Fact.
Oh my god.
Sorry, Barbara Jo. No, the final notable voice actor is Sir Bart, played by Thurl Ravencroft.
I was gonna say I saw Thurl Ravencroft's name again, and I know that he was in last time.
I didn't realize he was in so many Disney movies.
I
I
know.
really only knew him before this podcast. I only knew him from The Grinch.
He also works as a cameo, which is what he is in this movie. So
Yeah. So those are some of the people that we hear. And then, of course, there is music throughout the film. It's technically a musical.
But it's not.
But it's not.
I think this is even less of a musical than 101 Dalmatians.
No,
So
I
you
disagree
guys-
with that.
Really?
You know, when you say, like, in some movies, I firmly disagreed when you guys were like, I think this music is forgettable. This music is forgettable.
I agree with that. I completely agree that it's forgettable. I don't think
You
that
haven't
this
seen
is
Hockety Pockety all day?
hickatus fickatus. I think this is more of a musical than 101 Dalmatians,
But
though.
the songs are forgettable.
Yeah, but I do agree the songs are
Okay,
forgettable.
so a lot of people who know me, I'm not going to say anyone who knows me, but a lot of people who know me know how much I hate, like vehemently hate talk singing. I hate it so much. That's the only reason I hate the movie My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn. I refuse to watch it ever again because I hate talk singing. If you're going to sing, sing. If you're going to talk, talk. Don't put it together.
Well,
I hate
guys, Abigail's a whole different shade right now.
I
So-
hate talk singing. I hate it.
She is reading her notes and pointing. How did you feel about the narrating singing at the beginning? Is that okay?
Yeah, fine.
See, that's what was weird to me.
But that is very medieval. It sets the tone.
Well, there
Wait, what talk singing? Just because he's like hippity hoppity skippity pockety?
Not
Yes.
just that. It also happens.
Madame Mims does it. Merlin does it. There's very few people that actually sing. There's a point where Merlin does sing, and I'm like, this is nice.
Maybe that's medieval.
Well, there are 6 official songs that
6?
appear. I know.
Right?
There's The Sword and the Stone, sung by Fred Darien, who we will come back to next week.
Okay.
I'm just putting a little tease there. We'll talk about it next week. Then we have Hickatus Fickatus. That's what makes the world go round. A most befuddling thing. Mad Madam Mim and Blue Oak Tree.
Blue Oak Tree.
It's 40 seconds long. Who knows?
Do these...
It might be the at the end of the...
Yeah, they do say something, like, at the very end is like, sword and the stone.
As much as we may or may not enjoy these songs, what's interesting is that they are all written by the Sherman Brothers. I know. And this is the first that we are seeing them for a while to come.
Okay,
Because
Wait,
so
what?
they're like a bong joon-ho. Like, they take a little bit of time to, like, you know, simmer, and then they come out, and they're just like, I'm the best ever.
completely. Do you know who these brothers are?
Do I know who these brothers are? How many times have I watched Saving Mr. Banks?
Well, you said, wait, what?
No. I
So-
said, wait, what? Because for a while they won't be here. But I was thinking, because they did Mary Poppins and all this other stuff,
Right.
I was like, oh, yeah,
was
I
saying-
guess in the
I was saying-
animation world.
No, I was saying they will be here for a while.
Oh, the way you said it was like, we won't see them again for a while.
Anyway,
The Sherman Brothers will come back to compose scores and songs for The Jungle Book, Aristocats, Winnie the Pooh, and then, of course, their most famous achievement is Mary Poppins.
and Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. That's like my
Disney
little
achievement.
Disney World achievement.
Disney World.
Did they do
achievement.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks?
Yes, they did Bedknobs and
I knew
Broomsticks. They did Charlotte's Web.
Because Beautiful Briny C was going to be in Mary Poppins.
They did It's a Small World.
Yeah. I'm telling you, they like compose things for the theme park, like all over the theme park.
I still will stand on this hill of that I think their most crowning achievement is Mary Poppins.
I think what
Yes.
they're known for most is Mary Poppins, yeah. But I'm got another thing that this movie has that you can't take away from it is that the Sherman Brothers appeared here
the first
first
time.
in the animation movie. Is it the first time?
It's their first Walt Disney animation, but their first time with the Disney was The Parent Trap in 1961.
Let's get together. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Do you know that was on a CD that I used to listen to all the time, and I never realized it was from that movie until like a couple of years ago.
I watched that version of Parent Trap for the first time. I grew up with Lindsay Lohan.
Oh yeah, me too.
We're veering. We are veering.
We are. It's okay because this movie.
Is the worst.
No, it's not the worst.
It's
it
not.
just
I know it's not.
It-
okay.
it just lends itself to veering away from talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Another fact about the music, I normally bring this up in the history, but I thought it would be better here. This movie got an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, it did.
Sleeping Beauty didn't. 101 Dalmatians didn't.
They know
but
what's up.
this did. It got a nomination for Best Score, but it lost to the score for...
Porgy and Bess.
No.
Porgy and Bess,
I
still
still
bringing it
don't
out years
believe
later.
that's a thing.
It lost to a film called Irma La Dose.
What?
I tried my best.
Interesting.
That is a
You know,
sad fact.
honestly, so as much as I am not a fan of the songs, the score,
It's pretty good.
yeah, I definitely listened to the score and I said, this has a lot of similarities to the score of 101 Dalmatians, which I love.
This poor movie.
Do you want to transition?
Yeah, because the poor thing.
Are we going to say our favorite song?
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
Oh,
So
I forgot about that.
Okay, so they're not really songs, but what's your favorite talk jingle in the movie?
My favorite song is the one at the beginning because he sings.
Okay. I like Higgitus Figgitus.
I love Figgitus.
I like it. I don't know why I like it.
Because it's fun.
Well, yes,
I
it
think
is
it's
fun.
a lazy version of Bippity Boppity Boo.
Oh my god!
I agree, but also that's not what I wrote. I wrote in my notes, this feels like a first rough draft of Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. They were like, we need a weird word. Higgitus Figgitus? Let's use that here. See how it goes.
How? Okay.
Sorry, Eli.
I'm so sad right now. I don't understand how you can say bippity boppity boo, higgitus figgitus, and then supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and then be like, higgitus figgitus is obviously the most stupid.
No,
We never said
it has
that.
to do with the other words that are in
Yeah.
the song.
It's not the phrase
What word?
Higgitus Figgitus that is appalling to us. It's
It's the fact that he goes.
Pockety pockety?
I mean, like he says stuff like that. He's just like hickitus figgitus, and then I do something like this, and then I go hickitus figgitus, pickety pockety, picketa boogada, bada bada, and it just like it doesn't have this put it together and what do you got? You know, it's
Higgitus figgitus poo.
I don't know. I don't know
maybe
how to.
it's what's
Where's
happening.
Donna when you need her?
Maybe it's what's happening. Maybe it's what's happening during. I think that sequence is really fun and really cute, and that sugar bowl gives personality that a sugar
I
bowl
love that
shouldn't.
sugar bowl.
And maybe it just maybe I'm conflating the two things. Like they go together well, I think. But anyway, that's my favorite part as well.
It's not a terrible song. It's not as bad as like 5'2".
Yeah, but that
Cinderella 2, yeah.
I feel like that's apples and oranges because Cinderella 2 is a direct-to-video 2002 movie, and this is
Higgitus
Silver.
Figgitus is the song that I had on a compilation CD as a kid. It's the only one on this album that I knew before I even saw the movie.
okay. Well, I will say I've never listened to any of these songs away from the movie. I've never had any of these songs on a CD or anything.
Mine was
So-
on one of those, like, it was like a black CD. There were 3 of them, and each one had Mickey ears on it.
Oh, yeah.
It was like green, red, and orange. You remember?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the classics? Yeah, that's one I had. Not that one.
Speaking of these CDs that had the stuff on it, was there any other areas that we see? Sword in the Stone? Any extras?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have any.
Oh, I do. I have 2 major ones.
Why is this like Eli?
I mean, you could look up like other legends of King Arthur stuff, but Disney Sword in the Stone specifically. What? What is happening?
Just pulling things out of your butt.
I mean, you can. There's the show Merlin, which is basically like the Smallville of Merlin. And then there's King Arthur with that one guy that was in that one show. And then there's a ton of other. There's Excalibur. There's other things. You can watch anything.
So if you want some Disney-approved things that involve King Arthur and Sword in the Stone, I have 2 things for you. Number 1, Once Upon a Time, which features an entire season about King Arthur and Merlin and that kind of lore, and they tie it into like a Disney way. And then, of course, Kingdom Hearts, you get to interact with Merlin a lot, and you kind of go into his little shack that he lives in.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Shed is like
That's-
I
that
would
thing
call
in
it
your
a-
backyard.
Yeah, thank you.
Like a she shed.
A cottage.
cottage, that's the word. Little cottage. And I don't know why I like this, but I really do. I know it's just a video game, but Merlin and the fairy godmother are together. They're not like an item. I just meant like they're physically together, and they give you like advice about magic together.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I just really like that they did that. Anyway.
I do like in Once Upon a Time that the main character is a flashback, and she's like in a theater watching the actual movie Sword in the Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Once Upon a Time's version of Merlin appears to her.
Uh-huh.
And like and that sounds confusing, but if you
It
watch the
makes
show,
so
it
much
makes so much
sense.
sense. But it's really good, and I do love that arc of that show.
And the time-wise, it would be when it was re-released.
Yes, because speaking of when it was re-released, we mentioned that Junius Matthews is Rabbit in Winnie the Pooh, and when it was re-released, they released it with like a short from The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Right, I read that with Junius Matthews in it.
And
So he was in Sword in the Stone and Rabbit. You could see a double feature, Junius Matthews double feature.
That's how they marketed it.
Another thing that I have for extras is Madame Mim actually appears throughout a ton of stuff outside of Sword in the Stone, specifically comic books, which
Weird.
I don't think we've really had since Jose Carioca, who also appeared in a ton of comics outside of his films. But Madame Mim, I was reading, and how did they phrase it? It was like, Madame Mim appears largely throughout the Donald Duck universe. And I was like, I guess there is a Donald Duck universe.
Yeah.
Who's that evil witch duck with
I
the
saw
black hair?
Her name is Magica Dispel.
Okay, well, she teams up with
Vegeta?
her a bunch. And she also teams up with Pete a bunch to
Interesting.
go against Mickey.
Okay.
And so Madame Mim appears a ton throughout print. So if you are just really itching for some Madame Mim, you can find some old 1970s, 80s comics.
Since you're talking about Madame Mim, can we just like talk about her for a minute? Like just a little bit more.
For a minute.
For a minute. I'm assuming that you two watched it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I watched my copy of it.
Uh-huh.
And so I watched it and then I did some research, and it says that on the UK DVD version, it omits her second half of her very first line, which it's when Arthur's a bird and he's coughing when he appears in her house. And she's like, "Ooh, it sounds like someone's sick. How lovely." And then she says, "I do hope it's something serious, something dreadful." Did you guys hear her say that, or did she just say it sounds like someone's sick? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, anyway.
Why would they cut that?
Well, I don't know. It says for unknown reasons, and she only says sounds like someone's sick. How lovely. And then this version would be used on Disney Plus. So if you watched it on Disney Plus, you might not have got half of her first line, but she goes on to say that she hopes whatever it is that they're sick with is something serious and dreadful. So I just didn't know if you guys, I just wanted to know if you guys remember hearing that, but I guess you weren't.
I wasn't knowing to look for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I didn't-
she
yeah, I
might have
didn't-
said
yeah.
it.
I don't
know.
Yeah. Do you have anything for the parks?
Yes. So actually, a lot of it is in Disneyland for some reason, but the character that you can experience is in the new Magic Happens parade, which parades are kind of on hold right now, but hopefully they're coming back soon. So in the Magic Happens parade, the Sword in the Stone float is so cool, especially because they always get this very energetic. I'm sure he's like a 20-year-old that they slapped a beard on. But he is like, I think that they have like a bungee cord tied to his back, and he just like flails around look it up.
Who?
Merlin?
Merlin.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Didn't
That
you get
makes
the
sense.
context
I know,
clues?
the
Makes sense.
beard.
I'm sorry.
My
wasn't
brain
trying to be-
does that. Like I know who I'm talking about, but anyway. So Merlin on this float is like this super like flaily energetic character who's like dancing around to the song Magic Happens, and it's just looks like a super fun float. So definitely check that out. Then beside the carousel and Fantasyland in both Disneyland and Disney World, there is a Sword in the Stone, and they do a Sword in the Stone ceremony at some points in time where like different kids go and try to pull the sword out, and then they pick one special kid who pulls the sword out of the stone, and it's fantastic. And
Do they get anything, or they just?
I think they're
the
like
knowledge
King of
of
Fantasyland or Queen of Fantasy.
It's, from what I've been told, what happens is when the kid that is chosen pulls it, because it's being operated by someone who's watching from above, when it's pulled, a bunch of people in costume run out, and it's like a celebration, and they're like, it's a king, and then they're a temporary king of Fantasyland for a day.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I
but-
know this because I tried to pull it for 20 minutes.
Yeah, like what if you're the kid that doesn't get it?
Right.
I think that's the downside, is that like you get very few kids to be extremely happy. You have plenty of kids who are just like, why am I not special? Anyway, neither here nor there. If you want to experience a Sword in the Stone, it is in arguably the most featured, the best land in all of Disney World. So, it's in Fantasyland. I have a funny story that happened last year. So I was looking up like what happened with this Sword in the Stone. You know, I was like, is it still a thing? And I saw this news article that said, man rips sword and stone at Disneyland, does not become king. So apparently in January of 2020, so just last year, this like super burly guy, and this is like, this definitely happened. It was several sources confirmed this. There was a super burly guy who just yanked the sword out and broke it.
Oh no.
And they had to remove the sword to repair it. Because he like pulled the sword out.
He's the reason 2020 happened. He broke the magic of Disney.
He did.
And so
did.
the world broke.
Oh man, I just think the article said he
Does
did
not
not
become
become
king.
king.
I love it.
I can't imagine being an Imagineer who was just like, dude,
Seriously.
go and play that game where you slam down the
Right.
thing.
It is a fun experience though to try to pull it out because you can feel that it comes out. Like it kind of jiggles.
Yeah.
But it does not move, and I don't know how they get it to like I don't know
would
if it's like a
assume
magnet
there's,
or
like,
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
You said
assume,
magnets,
like,
move on.
Okay,
in the bottom.
I was gonna say it as a joke, but then you said magnets at
I think
the
it
same
might
time.
be. Yeah.
I was gonna be like, magnets. But then you said it. So
I
then
think-
it
yeah,
felt
'cause-
like I was...
Listen, magic happens.
Magic happens once in a while.
Except when I try to pull out a sword. It didn't happen to me. I was also 24 when this happened. And so I'm acting like, just to clarify, I wasn't a kid trying to do this. This was like 3 years ago. And I
You're
was like,
right.
I'm pulling this sword out and I will have a celebration.
I hate to break it to you, they're always going to pick the kid. It's like how I refuse to go to like Enchanted Tales with Belle because I know that she's not going to like pick me.
I got picked there.
What?
I got picked there. I was one of the knights.
We're going to go.
I know. I was like, you said that. And I was like, no such thing.
We're gonna go.
Because,
We're gonna go.
I got picked. Me and my friend got picked to be the knights that protect her.
Yes!
Yeah, I have like
She better pick me. I want to be a nitrous. Okay.
a nitrous. Oh no.
Yes. So that's the parks.
Well, thanks for that parks report, Abigail.
So we know that the sword didn't hold up, but does the movie hold up? How's that for a transition?
That's brilliant. Yeah, speaking of holding up, let's just dive in real quick with the Bechdel test, which this movie does not pass.
No.
I've been so pleasantly surprised by the last couple of movies.
Those two squirrels might have talked to each other.
They don't speak, and they
Talk
don't
about
have
their
names.
heartbreak after.
They don't
Squirrel
have-
1 and Squirrel 2.
They sound like me
And if
when
they were
I'm
talking about their
trying-
heartbreak, then they're probably talking about a man.
Yeah. They're very
human one and
focused.
tall.
There are 4 female characters. There's 2 unnamed squirrels. There's the
Madam
scullery
Mim.
maid, and then Madam Mim. So this does not pass the Bechdel test. Yeah, there are not many great female characters in this film. Even Madam Mim, I think she's a great character, but she gets such short amount of time.
I get the same vibe that I got from Pinocchio, that this movie was kind of made for boys.
I
Yeah.
completely get that.
Whether that be the case or not. But I do think that if they had like any type of female character, I would feel more access to it.
And you know what's interesting? I feel like we're putting like the whole made for boys in quotes. But at this time, it really could have been made for
Directed
boys.
at boys.
I don't think that they would have come out and said, the new boy Disney picture.
There's definitely people. That's probably how people said it though.
Oh,
Like
totally.
families,
In the,
right? That's
in
a boy
the,
one.
you know, in the room where it happens.
Yeah, or even families, like
Um,
when they're looking for a movie to watch.
Yeah.
Like a little girl will be like, "Oh no, that's a boy movie," or the boy
Totally.
would say it's a girl movie.
So that's definitely the vibe that I got, that in 1963, this was intended for a male audience.
You know, we're going to get to Black Cauldron like 20-ish years later. And that, I don't know why, but they seem like sister films in some ways. And I think that something that they did do well in Black Cauldron was have a female counterpart to the male protagonist.
I think they easily could have had female characters in this film. I mean, there were females at this time.
There were,
and-
believe it or not.
And I think even just extending Madame Mim's character, like you had said, having her appear throughout the entire film would have helped
Yeah.
with story and by having a dynamic female character.
Right.
True. And when there is females, I don't think... Well, it's weird because they are squirrels, but they're treated a little objectified, I guess you could say. Like, he makes a comment, like, she's not going to stop.
That's a girl squirrel and a redhead at that.
That's it, yeah. But the fact that he, like, made the comment about her being a redhead and that somehow was going to... I don't know, it was a little weird.
She's fiery
And
because she's a redhead.
He said, that's nature. Girls are attracted to boys, which
Right.
is very, like,
And
head-centric. So.
Yeah.
Ugh.
He was like, the only thing that she knows is that she's a girl and you're a boy. And it's hard because I'm like, well, when it comes to animals, I guess it's not totally off, but it's not
There's
on
a
either.
bunch of animals that have proven that there are homosexual relationships.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that it's not as, like, jarring to me because they were talking about the animalistic nature of squirrel wanting to mate because he was a boy, but it was really weird to...
Yeah, it's also, I don't know. I found the disconnect when they were walking away and they said, love is a powerful thing. But to me, that whole scene had to do with lust, not
Yeah,
love.
I agree.
Right.
I also think, I was kind of talking to Chris about this beforehand, but I think that this kind of has some implications towards consensual touching and consensual affection
Mm-hmm.
when it's a girl towards a guy, and how there's a double standard with that. Merlin thinks it's kind of funny, and he's kind of laughing and poking fun at Wart, even though Wart very clearly doesn't want this to
Very
happen.
uncomfortable.
And I think that as a society, we think that's so funny. But if we were to change the roles and it was a male squirrel that was being that aggressive towards a female, I think that we would get really uncomfortable. And that kind of begs the question, why is it that way? Because Wart's a guy.
I love that you brought that up. I hadn't thought about that, and I think that's because our society is so conditioned. You're so right. Because in America, at least, and probably elsewhere, that men want lustful things no matter what. And so that's what they want. And when a woman is trying to give it to him, whatever that is, then that's a good thing because that's what they want. But that's not always the case. And there is such thing as consent for men. Like,
Yeah.
it's just consent for people in general.
And while this doesn't take it as far as it hints at it, I think, about how it doesn't matter if it's funny. It's funny if the man doesn't want it or something. And that's something that is being taught to kids, and I don't know if that's the right message.
I don't know. It was just a weird scene, and I knew it was, like, be weird to dissect in this part of it.
Well, you kind of see that these things, would it count as a microaggression? It's just something that is not explicitly making the statement, like, it's not directly addressing male consensual relationships. You know,
it's not.
or consensual relationships on the male side. I don't know how you would phrase it, but
Definitely was not the point of the scene.
it's
No,
not
not
the
at
point
all.
of the scene.
But it is alluding to the culture in general.
Right. Exactly.
Other than that, though, I'm trying to think of anything that didn't hold up.
I mean,
Because I don't...
there's the usual stuff of no characters of color, no
Right,
queer
you're right.
characters, which I know that's never going to
I
happen.
mean, that's going to be a tick on the boxes
Right.
for a long time. I honestly had a real issue. The only thing I disliked about Merlin was his adamant thought that education was the absolute number one most important thing. And that even when Wirt told him, like, I'm lucky that, I'm happy that I'm a squire. Like, that's a good thing. In the time that I'm living in my situation, I'm really lucky. And, like, I'm kind of happy to do this. And he still was like, no, you're nothing if you don't have an education. I don't gel with that mentality. But, I mean, as a kid, I watched this and I never felt that way. So I don't know if it's, like, jarring. It's just interesting that he was, like, super, like, you have to get educated and this is the most important thing, whatever. And I understood where he's coming from. And education is important. But to me, the outcome of, like, what he needs as king, it's not, like I said earlier, it's not just an education, which is why I'm glad that to educate him, he turned him into stuff to see the world and everything like that. The way he educated him, I think, was nice, even though the story wasn't.
I feel like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you saying, like, you don't appreciate that it was implying that like a formal education is the only way that you can get ahead. Because with that, I agree. I mean, I'm very pro education, but I don't think you don't have anything to offer. Like, you can educate
Yeah, that's
yourself
what I
in
mean.
ways of you could have 5 degrees and a doctorate, but you could have never traveled the world and never experienced other people's cultures. And you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but like there's
Well,
different types of education.
And Merlin seems to think that becoming a squire is at odds with having an education,
Yeah.
which they're not like mutually exclusive.
My problem is Merlin, when he decides to go to London to be his squire, Merlin says this is what makes Merlin mad. It makes him
Right.
leave the movie for a while. He literally tells him, "I thought you were going to amount to something." And if you put it in today's standard, if someone decides not to go to college and they decided to pursue something else without going to college, that does not mean that they're not going to amount to something that one day. That does not mean that they're going to, quote, flip burgers for the rest of their life, which is supposedly the worst thing that could ever happen to someone. I have a problem with that mentality. And maybe it comes from I went to college. I didn't finish what I wanted to yet. I have plans to go back. But I just don't like, there's already a self-induced insecurity and pressure with yourself if you don't go to college or finish college or feel uneducated, I guess you could say. And so to see that in a movie, that impression to me bothers me a little bit.
Well, and also we find out that him going to London to be a squire is what ultimately led him to the sword.
Exactly.
So like if he listened to Merlin, he may not have gotten there.
Right.
That's true.
So
But I don't even know if that doesn't hold up. It's just personally for me, it doesn't hold up because I don't think that's, I think it's an important message. It's hard because I don't want to sound like, don't go to school, don't get education, because obviously that's super important.
School
just
is for losers.
education can come in many forms,
Right.
and only one of those forms is school, but other forms do exist, like experiences and
Yeah.
life lessons.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
School is stupid.
Oh my God.
All you gotta do is face your fears. Do we want to rank it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think this movie holds up?
It's hard because nothing was so blatant to me, and it's kind of a weird thing. I'm going to put it at a 8 because I think the education thing is just a very personal case-by-case deal for me, maybe. And then it just, I wasn't crazy about the way they talked about women for a few moments. 7.58, I think. I think it holds up pretty well.
7.
Yeah.
I was going to give it a 7.
There we go.
So I think we're going to wrap it up by asking a few questions that we always ask. Who was your favorite character?
Who? What?
Who? What? Who?
That is my answer. Archimedes is my absolute favorite.
I enjoyed Madame Mim.
And I enjoyed Madame Mim.
Oh
Too
my
late.
God, yep.
You pulled in me.
Wow. That was totally, it's okay. I love Archimedes.
Don't ask
How did that happen? That was totally a Sleeping Beauty moment where, oh, God. Oh, I feel like the poor unfortunate soul because I didn't pick Madame Mim. What was I thinking? Okay, who do you guys think is the poor unfortunate soul?
I think it's that little sugar dish. Getting flooded with water and having to keep scooping himself out. I felt so bad.
Poor little thing was animated just to serve.
Literally.
You know, that's a good argument because I couldn't really find one again.
Maybe that objectified squirrel.
I mean,
That fish
Actually,
she bumps into.
you know what? My poor unfortunate soul is Madame Mim because if she can't be my favorite character, I feel bad for her that she has this horrible disease because she had black magic and was technically a villain. She's laid up in bed, and the poor thing, she's covered in sunshine, and she hates sunshine. Wholesome sunshine. I love that.
Okay, so in every
I hate sunshine.
in every movie, in every generation, a Slayer is born. In every movie, we select one thing from a group of things, which is starting to just be the description.
I'm gonna
of what
say
this
that's
is.
just how we
I mean,
say
it
it
makes
now.
sense the more you say it.
Yeah. So the thing that we're picking is the transformation. What was your favorite transformation of Merlin or Madame Mim?
Mine is Merlin becoming the blue rabbit. I just loved. He was just cute. That's
I
all.
like how he goes from a turtle to a rabbit.
Uh-huh.
Like you can almost see his thought process of like, okay, I'm a turtle. I need to. He's like, bounce. And he's like, oh, tortoise in the hair. That's a good story. Boom, hair. And like,
Yes,
I love it.
exactly.
Like, I mean, he doesn't say that, and that's but that's headcanon for
implied.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. My favorite is Madam Mim turning into like the tiger thing because it's the least obvious. Like, she's like a tiger. She looks like Cheetah from Wonder Woman 1984. She's like on two legs, but she doesn't fully look like a tiger. Like, she looks so strange to me, and I just love it.
I like Madam Mim as the dragon. I think that dragon, is so juxtaposed against the Maleficent dragon. Like, it's just such a comical, like, it has a afro. Like,
Oh my god, we need to post on our story this or
side by
that
side.
of Maleficent Dragon and Madam Mim
it
Dragon.
Yes.
definitely, if anybody has seen the Reluctant Dragon, it definitely looks just like that dragon.
That's still such a blind spot for me. I've never seen that.
Well, it's live action.
Right.
I think it's lesser known, but
She reminds me of Elliot from Pete's Dragon a little bit. Elliot.
All right, so what is everybody's overall ranking and rating of this film? I rated it 3 stars, but I almost gave it 2.5. I ended up giving it 3. I don't know if I felt pressured or not. No, not that anybody pressured me.
I would say, don't look at me.
Nobody
'cause
has pressured me.
I wasn't even close to you when you watched this movie.
I know. I gave it a 3 for now. It's definitely on the bottom of the 3s. And as far as my ranking goes, currently it is ranked as number 8 out of 18.
It's higher than I thought.
I really don't like
More
the
time?
bottom.
Yeah.
Everything below that I really dislike.
What did you rate?
I gave it 3 stars, and I am almost exactly like Chris. If there was a rating of a 2.75, it would probably get a 2.75.
Gotcha.
And it is ranked 11. It is under Saludos Amigos, and I feel very comfortable with that because
I believe it. The way you talk about Saludos Amigos. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys are going to be proud of me. I hope. Because when I watched this movie and I logged it, what my previous ranking was 4.5 out of 5.
Woo!
And I said,
Oh man.
I said, whoa, that's not right. So I took it down a whole star and I have it at 3.5, which
That's
I
fair.
think is,
That's fine.
that is fair.
and that includes nostalgia.
That's growth, Eli.
So yes, exactly. I'm here to say that this intervention podcast has maybe worked. It's on its way. We might have to shut it down early if I finally come out of my nostalgia cocoon.
No, honestly, it would be okay if we had like completely different views, but I think that from what you've said, it sounds to me like it's a 3.5 review for you.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was like, this just wasn't it's not even a 4, but it was a 4.5, and I was like, ugh, that's like 2 stars of nostalgia. I think you've joked about me making 2 separate lists, and then this is the first time where I'm like, that actually would be a good idea, because in my head this would be like in my top 10, but now I feel like it's not going to be in my top 10 because it's not even in my top 5 of the 18 that we've watched. It's at number 6, so I don't see it being in my top 10 all Disney movies of all time. So I think I do need to make a separate list of like nostalgia, of like personal faves at some point. When we get to Tangled, it better not happen this way. It's gonna be 5 stars.
I will go hard for some 3 Caballeros, but that's like not even in my top 25.
Right.
It might be top 25. It's not in my top 10.
All right. Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. You can always follow along with us on Instagram, Facebook. Just find us at Idle Prattle Podcast. And you can email us any questions, comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. You can email us at idleprattlepodcast@gmail.com.
Mailbag's coming up.
Mailbag is coming up. It's in 2 weeks, y'all. So
We have so much to talk
we
about.
have so much to talk about. It
I
might
got a
be
lot to listen to.
it might be a deluxe extra special 5-hour long
So
mailbag.
if you like mailbags, this one's gonna be. We're gonna cover 8 movies. You guys gotta get your questions.
It might
in.
have to be 2 parts.
We'll see.
We'll find out.
But first, we have to cover The Jungle Book.
Oh, yes.
And that's coming next week, and I know that's some people's favorites. I think it's going to be one that I forgot how much I liked, because I haven't watched it in a while. But Jungle Book is next week, so join us then.
And as always, don't underestimate the importance of
Body language.
What?